Welcome back, Irish fans, to Breaking Down Bray's Boys podcast. Today we're changing it up again. I don't think a lot of you are interested in the 6 p.m. game on a Sunday night against Miami. So we're going to kind of go over a lot of things about the program. We've got a lot of news this week, some of it significant, some of it somewhat insignificant. And I just got finished with watching JR and Blake. Both played tonight in completely different games. But I also brought Jake on. Jake didn't watch them because he was watching the Knicks, just garbage team. Did they win, or was it worth it?
Yeah, they beat the Wizards, but Mitchell Robinson fractured his hand, so
So it wasn't worth. It wasn't worth
no,
beating
not
them.
at all.
Yeah.
Beating a Wizards team without Bradley Beal is not really that impressive, but
Mhm.
Weedhubben did look good, at least. So
Yeah, that's good for you, I guess. I don't know if it's. I guess it's worth missing JR and Blake because JR's team lost and Blake's team won by I think 60. They won 81-23. So I guess I'll pick those games. Just finished watching both of them. I guess I'll go with JR first because that was the more recent one because I tuned out Blake's game like midway through the second quarter because it was such a blowout. I have a few notes from JR. Interesting that he played on Demetrius Jackson court at Marion. Actually, a team Blake Wesley's team beat and JR's team just lost to. I saw at halftime he was student athlete of the week. Definitely fitting for a Notre Dame guy. Recently, I've noticed that he's really good at the top of the 1-3-1. Bray's been dropping into that a lot more with Leshevsky on the top. I know he loves the length on the top, so I think JR is going to be really good in that role. He didn't shoot super well against Marion, but I don't think I even talked to Jake about this, but it felt like I was watching LeBron. Was it 2018 playoffs when he literally just carried like Kyle Korver and Jay Crowder and all them to the finals? JR took probably 30, 35 shots tonight, had 40 points, didn't shoot that well, but he still had 40 points. It just shows you the kind of scorer he is. Um, in finding ways to shoot even or to score even when he's not really hitting on anything. And then some other notes. He became the all-time leading scorer in St. Joe High School history a couple nights ago. So congrats, JR, if you're watching. That's pretty cool. And then he's also a top 5 scorer in St. Joe County history, their league. So that's pretty cool. Jake, you have anything on JR? I don't know if you've been able to watch him much recently or anything like that.
I mean to win by 81-23 is
Blake.
obviously. I mean, not sorry, that was Blake. My bad. I got mixed up there, but it's Bray did say today that he views him as a guard, which I thought is interesting. But Bray kind of does view most players as guards, so I kind of see him as at least a 3, if not a 3/4 in college. But I think he might be one of those guys who has forward height but guard skills, which is always a pretty deadly combo to have.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm very excited for him. I think he can be a freshman impact for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Wanted to talk about this kind of applies to Blake too, but you brought up the forward size. He's pretty much a point forward. He's bringing the ball up most of the time, and I think that's kind of what you do with the most talented player on the team by far. If he's a forward and he has guard skills, you do that. Same thing with Blake. He's not a point guard, but he's bringing the ball up a lot. Even though he doesn't bring it up as much as JR, those guys are getting a ton of shots. They're, like I said, JR probably took 30, 35 shots tonight, and he had 35 of their first 45. He also didn't have much help tonight, even when he was passing the ball. But I think that's definitely going to be an adjustment for both of them. I'll probably touch on this more in the offseason, but it's going to be kind of tough for them this summer. They're going to need to work on kind of playing off of Prentice Hub and Trey Wirtz and Cormac and all those guys because they're not the number one option. They're not going to get away with shooting 30, 35 shots. But any thoughts on that and kind of if they'll be able to adjust their role at Notre Dame?
I mean, obviously, it's a big jump to go from high school to college, but I think we won't have. We saw kind of what that role was a few years back in that 2018 season, where you make all those players make the jump from not only high school to college, but in Prentice Hub's case, pretty much without playing for 2 years, and we saw how that season went. But next season we have a loaded team, so they're not even going to be like the first. They might not even be the first players off the bench of their position. So we can really ease them into that role, and as long as you don't rely on them too much, I mean you can work them in at their pace, and whatever they give you is really just a bonus. But I do think Blake can definitely um, impact as a guard off the bench, but he might be buried since we have three guards that have been starting at points in the season. JR at forward, maybe he's better than Tony Sanders. Maybe he's not. I'm not really sure. But I like them both. I think they can add a lot freshman year, but it is going to be a pretty deep team. So just how much remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I like that you brought up the 2018 team there because we kind of saw guys like Dane, Nate, and Robbie make that jump and kind of adjust to a secondary role. So I'm pretty confident JR and Blake can do it. Just going to be a bit of an adjustment. Only one who didn't really have to do that was Hub, just because he played alongside Chris Likes and then missed pretty much his whole senior year. So he never really was the number one option in high school. So that was interesting. But I guess I'll segue into Blake now. Not too much to take from an 81 to 23 win. I think this guy's way too good for the NIC. I think he's averaging like 29 points a game. JR is averaging, I think, 30 plus after tonight. So, that's insane.
JR's at 29.9, so.
I think we give him the benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah.
But with Blake.
So how many do you have tonight?
He had 40 tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be over 30 then.
Yeah, it was insane. He had 35 of their first 45 and then 40 of their 60. Like he had literally no hope until the last minute of the game, and he was gassed. He had 4 fouls. This guy could not have done any more to win them this game, and just couldn't really get much out of his teammates. So don't blame him for that at all. But on to Blake, I like his approach recently. Last year, I think we were both kind of weary of his shot selection. Took a lot of bad shots and had a lot of bad misses, but this year, it may just be that he's making more of them, kind of like Hub. He gets criticized for shot selection when he's missing, but I think I like Blake's approach a lot better. He's attacking the basket more, taking good shots from three, kind of waiting for more uncontested looks. And I think he's really improved as a passer. So that's really encouraging to see, especially that he might have to adjust into that role. So also, I think one more note, I think he has the potential to be the best defender on the perimeter next year. I don't think right now he's better than Cormac. I think Bray needs to kind of work with him and JR like he has worked with Wirtz and Dane and Hub about getting into his stance and keeping intensity on defense. But I think they can easily fix that. And if they do, I think Blake can be a guy who can pick up your best player and really limit him. So that's kind of all I have on the commits. So let's move on to Bray's presser. Got some big news. Dane Goodwin will likely return for his 5th year. I didn't hear the presser, so I don't really have too many notes, and I don't know exactly how he worded it. But from all accounts, Dane Goodwin will return for a 5th year, 2 years from now. Jake, what's your reaction on that?
I think his words were something along the line of he was interested in, he'd like to. He also mentioned Hub and Leszewski. I do not know yet. As for my first of all, I think it's great to have Goodwin back because we're always thinking with that year we'll have so many seniors and then what happens when they graduate. So right now we have a perimeter of Wirtz, Ryan, and Goodwin. That's a pretty base for the next season, so you don't falter. And then at forward and then at the 4 and 5 you got Cornez, JR, Sanders, Taylor, Zona. You're gonna have 2 of those. I don't think it's the worst team in the world. I think that can be a tournament team too, quite frankly, because they're all going to have experience from the tournament. Hopefully they add another big. As for Hub and Nate, I think Hub could stay in every year. I don't know. Maybe he could go overseas or he becomes an NBA prospect too. I think Nate probably leaves for the NBA,
Mhm.
but you never say never. So that could be interesting to see.
Yeah, for sure. That team is definitely a tournament team when Chet Holmgren transfers in after the year at Gonzaga. So really looking forward to that. But for the, I guess, almost current big man, Bray touched on Paul Atkinson a bit too. The Ivy League is saying that people can grad transfer now. Guys who didn't play this year because of the season being canceled. Atkinson's already signed with Notre Dame, so I kind of figured, but Bray said he doesn't
I
anticipate any changes.
will
Atkinson,
add something. I did see him like a tweet on Twitter that said that there are changes to allow players to come back were, let me see. I think it was something along a day late and a dollar short.
yeah,
So it's fair to say Paul Atkinson does not approve of the Ivy League's decision.
hmm yeah, for sure. I don't think he's been a big fan of their process at all. If you look at his Twitter, he's always kind of retweeted critical stuff about them, which I don't blame him. They haven't really given them much information, so don't blame him there. But Bray said he met with the academic advisor, I think yesterday, from Notre Dame. So I think we're in the clear there. And then we got some more news about him. He was going to play in the FIBA AmeriCup for Team USA alongside guys like Isaiah Thomas, Joe Johnson, some really good former players. But he tested positive for COVID, so he won't be going there.
I
I don't.
did see the official Notre Dame Twitter for basketball did tweet
Yeah, that
like
was weird timing.
that was weird.
Yeah, that was.
So, and I only saw one source in English say
Mhm.
uh, he was out, but I did see another one tweet in Spanish. But there's only two sources said that, so
Mhm.
I I don't know where he's getting that from. I don't.
Yeah. Hopefully it's I don't think he would have played much if he doesn't or if he didn't test positive. I don't think he gets many minutes there because it's all NBA guys. But I think that would have been a great experience for him, just to kind of see the physicality and mentality of those guys. Any thoughts on Atkinson and kind of all the stuff that could have happened but won't happen?
I mean, what's to what? Like, I mean, I think he's going to come to Notre Dame.
Yeah, for sure. Not too much there. It seemed like there could have been some stuff there, but nothing really.
He
So
really completes that team. I mean, I wanted an experienced transfer center to step in because that's one hole we wouldn't have experienced at next year. I mean, I like Matt Zona. I think he's adding more than people give him credit for, but you need to go all in, and he's not getting enough experience right now. But he could be. I think he'll be a really good big off the bench next year, and but that really completes the starting lineup for next year.
yeah, for sure. So before we move on to next year, and before we go into the Miami preview, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think about Notre Dame's last seven, where they've gone 5-2, and do you think they have any shot at the tournament?
I mean, yeah, I think they're kind of in the spot they were last year, where they had to be really good to have a shot at making the tournament. And I think like last year, they're going to be good, but just not good enough. I think they started the run late. I think three losses. I think the last two in particular are going to haunt them if they miss it. Ohio State, UNC, and Georgia Tech. I think the UNC one is actually the worst for me. I think worse than Georgia Tech because they missed two free throws at the end.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it. You can't win them all, but I mean, and of course, last year we were kind of, they lost all those close games, but they won a bunch of close ones too. But this year, you look at all their wins. Besides Duke, most of them are pretty, you know, I don't want to say lopsided, but pretty solid wins. So that makes it we have an even more right to be mad at the close losses because a few different bounces go our way, and we're looking at a pretty different picture.
yeah, for sure. That just thinking about that Ohio State game, that would have been a really insane win if they could have pulled that off. Looking back on it, and where Ohio State is now, I'll stand by that. Ohio State is the third best team in the Big Ten. That's a hot take, but I wouldn't have said that if Notre Dame had beat them. So, um, I guess, do you have anything else about the current team and kind of their picture, or should we move on to Miami?
No, I want to add more. I think they're playing really well. I think Jawan Durham's been a huge part of that. I mean, you look at how he's been playing. I tweeted about it. Besides the Virginia Tech game where he barely played, I don't know what happened there. He's been scoring great, and particularly in the last few games, on insane efficiency. Like he's missed. I think he's probably like 21 of like 24 for his last 3 games, or probably something insane like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's been a huge part of it. I think we said if Juwan Durham can have like a leap like Martinez Kevin did his last year, then that's huge. So he is. Yeah, I was right. He is 21 for 24 his last few games. I mean, that's just.
Gosh, that's insane.
I mean, that's an average of 7 for 8, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Something like that.
it's incredible.
Yeah, I'm not your math guy, but I think so. I think Jawan Durham is really making this team run. I mean, defensively, he's been pretty decent too. Wake Forest, he had 4 blocks, should have been 5 blocks, and he's really extended out to the mid range, which we didn't see a ton last year. So, really happy with how he's developed later in the season.
He even made a shot that should have been a 3, but it wasn't. And he had a few blocks last game. I think Hub too was playing tremendously. I think Nate got quiet, but had a very good game against Georgia Tech. I think Hub and Durham really picked up, and of course Cormac Ryan and Duke. I mean, he's really adjusted now. He is adjusted now. He's a whole new player. That can be key down the stretch, and I hope Wirtz does it too.
Yeah, for sure. Have you noticed that? I don't think this really correlates with anything, but every time Nate has a good game, Notre Dame loses. Have you noticed that? At least almost every time.
I did kind of think it was interesting that the last few games he played bad, except for the Georgia Tech game, which they lost. But I'm looking at it, and let's sort. He scored above 21 points 3 times this season. Virginia, Georgia Tech, and UNC. If you can remember, they lost all those games.
Mm-hmm.
He only scored. In fact, they are 1-5 in his top 5 scoring games. The only one they won was Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, it's.
And if you
interesting stat.
And they are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 8. They are 3-8 when he scores more than 11 points against a Power 5 team. So, I mean, that might just be a coincidence. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence. I think it's more so that you can get 20 out of Nate any night you want, but I think when you get 20 out of Nate, that means the other guys aren't really flowing.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, kind of like I feel like it's kind of like Mooney was last year. Like when him and Durham had a really good game against Duke, Rex and Gibbs scored 0 each, and then Hub had like 5. So I think when the guards are flowing, this team is a lot better. And I think the
that game, they were awful outside of Mooney and
Durham.
They scored. I think they scored 60 points, and Durham had 21. And Mooney must have had 20-something. Let me check.
Yeah. Oh, have you seen we're way off topic this time, and I think people enjoy that more than the like typical game preview. But have you seen Mooney? He seems like he's killing it in Australia.
Yeah, he's playing well. Isn't he averaging like 16? He's averaging a double-double. I do know that.
Yeah. I saw in their last game he had 18 and 13, and they won by like 30. So really good to see from him. And I don't know if you've watched him, but he looks like a completely different player. Like, kind of reminds me of J.R. Knesny, to be honest.
You know what's really stinks? He played 46 minutes as a freshman. He could have redshirted, and I think this team's biggest weakness is rebounding. He could have played. You could just be rotating in and out those 3 bigs 2 at a time each game. And we really would have been I think that makes this team a tournament team without a doubt, probably a top 25 team. I mean, that would have been if they just redshirted him that freshman year. He didn't play meaningful minutes at all. That would have been really helpful. I think about that a lot.
Yeah, he didn't play a single minute in the tournament game either, right? Like that was the thing.
No, he didn't. I don't think he played in postseason at all. Like, I think I think his last game that year was against like BC. A few games toward the end. It was like 46 minutes, and a lot of those were like early on in the season. They played like Seattle and Loyola, Maryland. He didn't play at all.
Yeah, that's good. Coming back to haunt him. Yeah, that's. I didn't even really think of that because I wasn't as invested back then. But that's that's gonna that's gonna haunt me now. But anything else before we head into Miami?
Nope.
All right, so Notre Dame, 6 p.m. on Sunday night. Another awesome time to schedule a game, just like the 15 other games that are at really weird times. Got another one against Miami, so against a really bad Miami team, but they might be getting Chris Likes back for the first time in months. I guess that segues into the what to watch for. Number one on the list is, does Chris Likes come back? Preseason, I think all ACC first team kind of guy. I don't think he'll be that now, obviously, but that's huge if he comes back. He'll probably be on a minutes restriction. Um, Apparently, the thing is he's hopeful to come back, so hopefully he does for his sake and doesn't for Notre Dame's sake. But I also think there's positives to him coming back. If
He's listed as questionable. So
yeah, he I think there's positives and negatives to him coming back from a Notre Dame perspective. I mean, he's the kind of guy that makes their team go. But if he's hobbled, he's also like, what is he, 5'10"? So that could be a really
he's 5'7", isn't he? He's really short.
yeah, but he could be a huge liability if he's hobbled and he's 5'7". He could Notre Dame could pick on him all day, especially with the way Notre Dame's been operating off the ball screens with Nate and Durham going to the basket, and they're kind of getting guards switched on to Nate and Durham, so that could be something to watch for. And then this one, a little more lighthearted. Bray would not confirm or deny this in the presser. The return of the blue team. The last time they played Miami, the blue team got their shot. Jake, are you team blue team, or do you think we should keep it going with the starters?
I wouldn't play with fire really. They were in 4 minutes and they didn't really do great. I don't see the reason to do it. They gave them the jolt, and really they've been improving since. So I don't think you can really punish a starting group that's 5-2 in their last 7.
Yeah, they just beat Duke also. So I don't.
And it does say they think if Likes returns, he will not be starting.
Yeah, this is coming from two Elijah Morgan super fans also, so it's interesting. I think we go with the blue team just to screw with Miami, show them how much
Well,
better.
I'm not against playing them, but it's like, I don't know if starting them. You got to do it.
Yeah, for sure. But that's kind of what we have for them. There's not too much to talk about. Hopefully they get in, just to piss off the Miami fans, so we can say you lost to the blue team. But the last thing I have is more of a schematical thing. Miami sucks against the zone. Shot 13% from 3 last time they played Notre Dame. I assume if Chris Lakes plays, that'll be a lot better because he's kind of that lead guard who can kind of pick apart a zone. Nobody on Miami can do that right now. You can kind of slow down Isaiah Wong and Cam Auguste from going downhill if you play in a zone. So I think Bray's going to do that a lot. He's even talked about that being his primary defense a couple times. I don't know if that's actually got legs, but if he's thinking it, maybe they'll just come out and stay in zone for the majority of this one. And then keys, beat pressure. Miami has long guards and Isaiah Wong and Cam Auguste. Saw against Georgia Tech, Notre Dame really struggled to pick up pressure and pick up the press. So if they can beat pressure, I think they'll be fine. Force Miami to shoot threes and outshoot them is my second and third one. Like I said, 13% was what Miami shot from 3 in the first game. Notre Dame shot 55, which is why they won that game. Miami probably has better guys who can get to the basket, but if Notre Dame can just outshoot them by a good amount, I think Notre Dame wins this game, and I think they win this game by maybe even double digits. Any thoughts on this one, Jake?
I think it would be very disappointing if they lost, and I think it would be still kind of be a bit underwhelming if they lost a close game. So I want a double digit win for sure. I want to win by 10. I'm going to predict Notre Dame wins by 9, 8 or 9, 10, 11, somewhere in that range. We need this win. We need to keep the momentum going. We need to keep winning, and pick up where we left off on Tuesday, I believe it was.
Yeah, for sure. I'm predicting like a 7 to 9 point win for Notre Dame. Just because of kind of the same thing you said. Notre Dame kind of really took care of them last time. But maybe Chris Likes helps them out. I don't see it. I think Notre Dame wins handily. But do you have who's your leading scorer prediction for this game?
I'm gonna go with Hub.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm going with Hub if Chris Likes plays, undoubtedly. But I don't think Cormac, Wirtz, or Goodwin are going to have a big game because of Wong and McGusty. I think Nate could be the guy if Likes plays. So I think that's all we have. Any closing thoughts on anything we talked about or the Miami game or anything?
Hope it goes well.
Yep, me too. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you're still here, thank you for watching. Go Irish. Peace.